Okay, so as you can see, I've now put the Wi-Fi into airplane mode. So hopefully this time the video shouldn't crash. If it does, I can't be bothered to make another one. But let's get straight into it. So in a nutshell, I put in a subject access request while I was at this section in 2022 that Signet seemed to have, or somebody, deleted a whole load of files related to when I was in hospital this year. So this was the email that I sent after putting in the subject access request in June. It got to the 5th of September, and I put in a subject access request that said, hello, I put in a request for medical records a few months ago with DPT and haven't received them. I understand from your website that there's been a delay. I've been referred to you by DPT headquarters in Wanford. My date of birth, I submitted the records with Katie White, blah, 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 blah. They got back to me and said, hi, Brodie, apologies for the delay. The records were sent to the consultant who's just got back to me and advised that they will action this as soon as possible. Are you able to advise where you would like the records to be sent? Now, they already had my home address, which I was provided to them with my medical records and the application when it was made. But I provided it to them anyway, a couple of days later, I believe, on the same day, in fact, 5th of September. Said, hello, thanks for getting back to me so quickly. That's great news. Am I correct in assuming that confidential information is sent by recorded delivery? If so, then post to, that's my old address. And then they got back to me. They said, hi, that's right. We'll send via Royal Mail special delivery. I'll let the consultant know and ensure you get this as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. Many regards, AD Howarth. And I said, brilliant, thanks. Anyway, it got to the 13th of September and it said to me that there was something going on because they hadn't arrived. I said, I'm still waiting for my medical records. Could you please find out if or when they're due to arrive? Regards, Brodie ND McLeod. Safer Information wrote back to me on the 13th of September. On the same day, I had a call with the clinician processing the request yesterday to assist with the process. It is still in hand and we hope to respond to you soon. We will endeavour to get this to you as soon as we can. Kind regards, AD Howarth. So I thanked him for the update and asked him how long it had exceeded the time frame set by ICO, which I believe is 40 days. They got back to me and they said, thanks very much. We're liaising with the clinical team who are preparing the request for you and to ensure that all your data you've requested is included. As part of the check-in process, we are ensuring that there isn't any that would cause any harm or distress to you once we share it. And if there is, we consider the best way to share that information with you so that we can have the information and be appropriately supported. We're sorry for the delay you've experienced, as there are many factors. However, that does not mean that we've not valued your request, and we apologise for any inconvenience caused. Once we have the final checks completed by the clinical team, we will let you know. Kind regards, Sam Bentley. So I said, hello. What I'm asking you for is to manage my expectations as to how long this should take, or ultimately how long it will be before I get the data. Regards, me. They got back to me on the 23rd of September to said, good afternoon, I hope you're well. Thank you for your below email, and we apologise for the delay in replying. With regards to your subject access request from Devon Partnership, I can't get my words out today, Devon Partnership Trusts, it's been reviewed by the Trust and we're able to provide access to your records with appropriate support. The subject access request was in relation to a special category data that the Trust holds about yourself with additional sensitivity to that it pertains to mental health data. Trust takes disclosure of information very seriously and always considers the well-being of the data subject requesting the information and any detriment the disclosure may have to them. We consider a serious harm test with appropriate clinical individuals as per the Data Protection Act, Schedule 3, Part 2, Paragraph 1 and 2, and the Trust has concluded that the information can be viewed by yourself with appropriate clinical support. The Trust has arranged for this informal access with a member of your care team, Gary Neal, who will be in contact to arrange a time to see you in person next week and bring a copy of with the records for him, with him for you to have access. That's my social worker, Mr. Neal. This decision on balance has allowed for the appropriate support to be in place, as well as to comply with your right of access to the information we hold. Without the appropriate support, the Trust would have to re-evaluate the conclusion it has come to and consider other options about your well-being with it being the priority. Please let us know if you had any questions. From Sam Bentley. I said, if you wish to redact portions of the data, then access to health records legislation permits this. However, there is still a 1 month time limit on provision of medical data, which you have far exceeded. Could you please tell me how long you're expecting me to wait for the information? Also, could you please ensure all records intended for me are provided in printed format? I don't consent to sharing my information with Gary N over and above that available to him within his professional remit, and won't be meeting with him in this capacity. I don't authorise him to handle and process my confidential information either. How long is it going to take for NHS DPT to process and post my medical records to my home? Then I wrote an addendum to that said, hello, I spoke with my social worker Gary Neal yesterday. He's agreed to consult with you regarding my providing my medical records to me directly without him being involved, as I don't require his guidance or support to process the information. Could you please provide me with an update on the provision of my data, along with a breakdown of by how many days DPT has exceeded the time limit set out in the relevant legislation? They were reluctant to do this in the next email. Hi Brodie, your initial request was made in June and the records were collated for you, but unfortunately weren't passed to you while you were in the care of DPT at the time. Now remember this bit, the request was made in June and it says the records were organised in June. Remember this for later on in the emails. As a trust, we do have a responsibility to review requests and make the decision whether to release records to an individual based on our most recent understanding of their well-being and the harm it would do to them. The decision has been made by your clinical team to release the records to you, and whilst our team does facilitate the requests that are raised, we do not make the decisions as to whether to release or refuse requests. The deadline was breached in July, and if you wish to complain to the ICO, we would support you in this process. Our internal powers can also support you with any complaints you'd like to make. We do intend to release records to you as soon as possible. At present, they're with the clinical team, who will arrange sending them to you. We do use special delivery for sending records by post, and so can ask for the tracking to be provided to you for assurance of delivery. I wrote back to say, hello, I appreciate there's a jointly administered process involving clinical information governance departments and that therefore applications for data involve various parties, but this doesn't absolve your team from taking sole responsibility. Effectively saying, in a bit, soon hopefully, isn't satisfactory. If another team has the data, then as the data controller, it's your remit to contact the relevant persons and inquire as a matter of urgency what the status is and to find out exactly when it's going to be fulfilled. It feels as though your department is passing the buck rather than adhering to legal procedure and policy, which would dictate you to find out exactly when the information shall be sent, and if there's any further delay whatsoever, to identify how long this will be and to then accurately manage my expectations accordingly. Simply claiming that it's with one of your own internal departments, so you do not know how long it's going to take, and expecting me to accept this isn't reasonable or professional. If the data was ready for submission, as you claim, whilst I was an inpatient, but was somehow forgotten, and then following this DPT also conveniently forgot to contact me for months until I eventually initiated my inquiry, then not providing a firm date by which the data will be provided is even more absurd. Data governance within the NHS is vitally important, and you should be able to work to deadlines and manage time and resources effectively. Not providing me with a date by which the submission shall be made is utterly unacceptable, especially when there's already an extreme delay, and you're claiming it was ready to be provided in June. It's the remit of your team to chase up whoever's processing or holding my records and ensure they're dealt with as soon as possible. If this isn't immediately, you must find out when, and as a matter of courtesy, update me as to why I'm being made to wait. I appreciate and understand that to some extent you've attempted to provide a rationale and assured me I'll receive my information in due course, but this still falls short of the service you should be providing. If you could please contact the clinical team and ask them how long it's going to take them to post my records, it would be appreciated. As healthcare professionals who are involved in the data requests regularly, they should be able to answer this with a deadline. I'm reluctant to commence any kind of grievance without accurate timescales as the outcome cannot be proportionate. If they take another month to arrive, then this is significant and should be factored into any resolution. But with only a vague idea of by how long submission will be delayed, it cannot be. I'll pursue this with PALS and the ICO if needs be, but your team properly managing my expectations is a key component of this process. So I'm requesting you do this first in order that I can then have my rights preserved, and so that any issue I may raise with the legal team can be processed holistically, taking the full length of the protracted delay into account. I then got a reply back. Hi Brodie, our team juggles a number of requests, and unfortunately at no point can we tell a requester exactly when something will be done or sent to them when the process is a shared process. This is because a lot of factors go into this. By promising an exact time things will be done or arrive with you, it's likely to cause more distress when it doesn't happen than to help and wouldn't be accurate. We simply can't guarantee due to the nature of the process. While we apologise for the delay, the records in June related to your well-being at the time. When you contacted us again, we touched base with the clinical team who advised it had been overseen and that you were now with a new team, who of course would need to appropriately overview your records and decide based on your current well-being what should be redacted or done. We have the records ready today. They will be sent via internal courier to the headquarters where they will be posted to you via special delivery. That's from the Safer Information team, an unnamed email there. Go down to the reply. Sorry about this. That was very unprofessional of me. I said, hello, unnamed NHS staff member, which was a bit coy of me. Great to hear you have the submission ready. Was it not ready in June? There's no point in debating semantics regarding DPT's atrocious management regarding this issue, but you most certainly do have to work to a deadline. It's a month, as detailed in law. This means that if you exceed the time period, you must then justify why and manage expectations of the person entitled to the information if that date is pushed back for some reason. Other large organisations with multiple departments are required to do this too. Asking a person how long is it going to take you and expecting an answer is fair and reasonable, and conversely, failing to do so is grossly unprofessional and negligent. If you have 10 departments in various locations processing data, you should liaise with each one and forecast a submission release date based on the longest lead time provided. Any part of an organisation saying at any point, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get this SAR stuff done, means that your data governance isn't fit for purpose. You must work to deadlines and can't take as long as you like and then have no accountability. The NHS apportions considerable resources to ensure data governance is compliant and doesn't permit anyone to take as long as they like when working towards a 1-month deadline, and especially when it's been breached. Having said this, I'm sure your department provides most people with their information promptly and professionally. The real reasons DPT NHS have totally ignored and then ridiculously delayed providing my medical records is due to the sensitive nature of the incriminating data contained within the records, which could cause a national scandal to see scores of staff facing lengthy custodial sentences. However, please be assured this is not my expressed intention. I intend to act with diplomacy and discretion with a view to the legal issues arising from my treatment and respect that many staff were put into a considerably compromised position and in many instances acted with dignity and valour to the best of their abilities given the circumstances. I look forward to receiving the special delivery tracking details once Womford dispatch the documents. And then we've got the tracking number. So the camera hasn't crashed this time, and I'm sorry that I was kind of like, oh, yeah, when I'm reading, because I'm on medication at the moment, and that makes me a little bit woozy sometimes in the early afternoon. But you can see that it was just left for 3 months. So I made the request in June, and then in July, and all through August, they didn't do anything with it. And then in September, they said, well, it was ready in June, but we just sort of didn't provide it to you. So I've put in a complaint. There's one more document to show you. Just quickly. I believe I've got it on my desktop somewhere. It was a letter they sent to me with the SAR when it did finally arrive, which I'll show to you. And it hasn't crashed this time because I've had it in airplane mode the whole time. So I think it's because it's on the Wi-Fi. For some reason it's crashing whenever it's on the Wi-Fi. So here you can see, with reference to your request for copies of medical notes, we are pleased to enclose the following copied records. We would like to take the opportunity to apologise for the delay you've experienced in obtaining the information that you have requested. Trust